Collection agents across the world are confronted on a daily basis with debtor excuses, and for that reason, we at ICAN developed a program with 10 modules dealing with the top 10 excuses confronted by many of the collection agents based in South Africa. My name is Craig Null, and we look forward to learning together as we discuss today how to deal with death as an excuse for non-payment. At ICAN, we love our quotations. This one is quite cool. If you are not willing to learn, no one can help you. If you are determined to learn, no one can stop you. And working in this industry requires continuous learning because our debtors become more and more sophisticated. In fact, they become quite skillful. And for that reason, we believe it's just important that you take in as much as you can and apply the tips on a daily basis. Let's discuss the learning outcomes for this module. First of all, how to deal with debtors who uses contributing to funeral expenses as an excuse for not repaying debt. Yes, believe me, that is exactly what happens. People use that as an excuse, and it's important for us to know how to deal with it because all of us are confronted with death and often become so sympathetic towards the debtor and obviously giving, not knowing whether they're being honest or they're actually dishonest with us. Secondly, how to deal with a relative of a deceased debtor and to provide them with options to rectify the matter. And this is very important. Due to the cost of funerals in South Africa, the surviving family would often do not have to get the correct information, access the relevant paperwork to get to bury their loved ones in a dignified manner. So we're going to share with you some tips on how to deal with the relatives of the debtors, but bear in mind it could be the debtor that you're speaking to, so we wish you well, but we're confident that this course will definitely help you. I'm sure South Africa is no exception. Funerals is a big businesses, and it's been estimated that the cost about 10 billion annually in South Africa. It is important, and a lot of insurance companies, and if you watch television daily, this whole concept of having dignified funerals and exorbitant costs has become part of the fiber of South African funerals, and often the surviving family will reach out to relatives and friends to assist. And funerals range between 3,000 to 50,000, even more, and often this excludes the gravestone. And it is important, therefore, as an agent, that you ask crucial questions to determine whether the debtor excuse is legitimate. Now the challenge is, how are you going to prove that? Because it might be a relative, very close distant relative. Your goal is to overcome that as quick as possible, and again, always asking questions in an empathetic manner. And they might provide additional information. However, always remind them about their legal obligation to repay their debt. Debt is not a valid excuse for non-payment. So let's talk through some of the tips that we suggest that you apply to overcome this object or excuse for not payment. So let's deal firstly with contributing to the funeral as an excuse for non-payment of debt. No matter how tragic the loss of life may be, if a debtor's family cannot afford a proper burial, You must still inform the debtor of the responsibility as an agent, and this is difficult. And I think in this instance, always display a level of empathy. But as professionals, we have an objective to achieve, and that's to get a payment and for the debtor to comply with their legal obligations in respect of that debt. Providing a proper burial is a good deed, but it cannot be used as an excuse for non-payment. So yes guys, I'm emphasizing the importance of it and emphasizing the empathy around it, and I strongly suggest always manage your tone, but we always believe at ICAN you need to be fair and firm. The impact of not paying the debt or servicing the debt could be severe for a debtor, and that could impact in access to credit facilities, negative effects on the credit record, and all likely collection costs. And it's important that you emphasize this in dealing with them. When you're confronted in dealing with a relative of the debtor, whether it's the spouse or the children, it becomes very, very tricky, because still it's unknown to us whether this is the debtor you're speaking with and whether they've been dishonest. And so we strongly suggest that you become familiar with, if you're working in a debt collection agency, with your clients, rules around policies and procedures around death or funeral benefits in that regard, and whatever contact numbers is available. But most importantly, when communicating with a deceased person's family member, it's essential to switch from being just a collector to being an empathetic advisor. So that's important, and we really hope you apply that. So as we continue with the tips, it is essential when you speak to that relative to ask questions, and you always notice in our training modules, especially when you train collection agents, that we want them to be smart collection agents. So ask them when the debtor passed away. Ask the relative if they've notified the lender, or if you are the lender, or if you're an agent, a collection agent working for an EDC. If they haven't done that, advise them to report this, to avoid further calls which may be obviously unsympathetic or inconsiderate, because there might be an opportunity where the company that they've borrowed the money from or had the facility from may claim against the estate in future. So what you're trying to do is just to avoid any of this uncomfortable collection process to take place. It does sound contradictory, but as we said, we're moving from the collector to an empathetic advisor to say these are the options available to you, and that's why I said to you earlier on, become familiar with the processes and policies in this regard. The debtor may have had credit insurance, and that might help cover that standing debt. So the sooner the relative can report the unfortunate and untimely death, there might be an opportunity to for the debt to be settled, so the estate is not burdened in any way. But they need to do it as soon as possible, because often these insurance policies can lapse. So urgent communication is critical, and I repeat, urgent communication is critical. I think also important, where there are estates involved, tell the family to notify the estate executor, who often is best positioned to deal with the situation. In South Africa, that is a key part. It often doesn't happen shortly after the death. Normally the focus is on the funeral, but generally if there's certain values linked to the estate, that has to be monitored, managed by an executor. It is important as a collection agent to notify your administration department, so that the clients are notified, and we encourage you to notify the surviving spouse to make direct contact as soon as possible with the lender's admin department. This is critical for all the reasons we've just mentioned a few moments ago. Many of you might be asking, why are we playing an administrative role where all the training modules we emphasize not to do this? Well, it's going to help the debtor. If the debtor is deceased, notifying the credit provider helps a lot. It makes a huge difference. It might be bringing some relief, as we've mentioned earlier on. They may have insurance and so forth and so on. So yes, play that role, and this will help you through the questioning. Identify whether they're being honest or dishonest with you. Because as we said, there might be the chance that it is the debtor faking their death, as it were, but hopefully not likely. There's a win-win situation for everybody. Surviving relative doesn't end up with a debt. The debtor can have the lender, I apologize, could have the debt settled using the insurance if there's any or claim against the estate. So there is quite a bit of benefits for everyone concerned, including yourself from a collections point of view. So there we go, folks. A very, very difficult but relevant excuse that's used in South Africa. We hope that this training module was useful. Please message us. Our contact details will follow. And all the best, as we said, please use the tools that we provided you. Reach out to us if you want some more details, if you want additional tips. My name is Craig now, and I'm from ICAN.